Understanding the difference between shame, guilt, and regret is the first step in learning to move through them. In this episode, we chat with Brittany and Joel about how they've handled shame, guilt, and regret in their lives.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and that recovery isn't just rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. We're your hosts, Steve and Julie. Listen as we get together with friends to shed light on the hard things, talk about the other side of addiction, and how we create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol.
Be sure to sign up for the newsletter at throughtheglassrecovery.com for access to our Zoom meetings and other great tools for sobriety. All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Super cool to meet you two. We've got Joel and Brittany. I'm excited. We have some new people I've never gotten to hang out with before. So this is going to be great. And yeah, this is episode 93. We are inching closer up to the big 100. We're going to start with our introductions like we always do. And I'm going to let Brittany go first.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be on here. My name is Brittany. I'm a little over 14 months sober. I don't keep daily count by any means. Like I asked ChatGPT here and there how far along I am.
Amazing. That's the first time I've heard that one. I love it.
So,
dear ChatGPT, if I got sober on this day. Anyways, I'm Las Vegas, pretty much local now after around 21 years of living here. And yeah, I'm just enjoying the, I also have a podcast called the Mocktails Made Us. I'm the co-host with my boyfriend, Matt. And I'm just loving the sober life.
Really cool. Really nice to meet you. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Brittany.
We had Brittany's co-host and boyfriend Matt on just a few weeks ago. So yeah, it's nice to get to hang out with you too. And next we'll have Joel. You want to tell us about yourself?
Yeah. It is Joel Anthony of the Sober Sessions. I got sober on March 23rd, 2016. I have a little over about 8 years sober. Honestly, in my spare time, I'm a motivational speaker. You know, I'm from New England. I'm a New England boy. I've lived here 37 years. Actually, right about now, we're transitioning in about a week. We're headed down to the Carolinas. I'm moving for the first time in my life, like out of state, far away from my family, far away from the people I love, you know, but I'm going to bring my message wherever I go. You know, I'm going to head down south and I'm going to do the same thing I do here. You know, I'm going to uplift, I'm going to motivate, I'm going to continue doing exactly what I was meant to do and what my purpose is, you know? Yeah, you can catch me on the Sober Sessions. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I am working on a website right now. It's going to have everything, you know, doesn't matter where you're from, where you live. You'll be able to find meetings in your area, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person. We're going to have a shop on there so people can get chips if they can't. Because I know some people have a hard time going to meetings, you know, and picking up that chip. You know, grab one online. You know, Some people need those. Some people, that is their key to life. You know, that's key to survival. They get that tangible thing in their hand and they go, all right, I made it. You know, so that's pretty much where I'm at right now. You know, I'm trying to transition this move, trying to just continue uplift others and motivate, continue doing what I do and stay sober, you know?
Right on.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a massive move. I feel like when we do another episode on change, we're going to need to send you an episode or send you an invite and have you come join us and tell us how that goes, because that is a massive life change to move that far.
Yeah. A lot of people have been asking me about that, you know, and we fear change as people, you know, we fear change. More so the unknown of what happens when change happens. You know, it's not the change itself, but, you know, I'll make through. I grow, you know, I embrace the change and I'll make it. I'll make it happen.
You'll be fine. I moved a little bit for 5 years. I moved to Minneapolis and then I moved to upstate New York and then I moved back. So I took a brief hiatus. You'll like it. Like change is good. Change switches up and you just see everything.
That's the thing, you know, it's all about the change. It's all about embracing that, you know. Good things come from change. I've never met anybody to change something about their life and goes, damn, you know, I should have never did that. You know what I'm saying?
You learn from every single thing you do. So
absolutely.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I'm so happy to meet both of you and get to hang out with you today.
Likewise.
For our topic, by far the most searched for topic on our website is dealing with regret. One thing we've come to realize, though, is that people confuse the terms regret, guilt, and shame. Either way, all of these emotions are hard to deal with and can often lead to wanting to numb out with alcohol. So let's dig into these. How have regret, guilt, and shame shown up in your life? Tell us some of your stories and especially what you've learned from them. And let's share some wisdom and some hope for our listeners today.
All right. I mean, ladies first. Should I say ladies first? Brittany, would you like to go first?
I guess so. This is actually, I feel like, a very good subject for me because I don't really feel shame now that I've been sober for a while, but I had a lot of childhood trauma growing up, and I felt so much shame from it. And I didn't even really understand that I felt the shame from it because it was like part of my life. And when you're little and you don't know what those feelings mean or why you're feeling that, you just know you feel really bad about yourself. And I carried that into my adulthood. I literally just lived in shame. I lived in shame for things I shouldn't have even felt shame about, like just breathing air I felt shameful about. And I pretty much lived that way for the first 38 years of my life. Like I couldn't get away with it. And I would even get sober for long periods of time. But what I didn't understand was if you sit there and you feel guilty and you feel shameful and you don't love yourself, you can't recover. There's no recovery, and shame and recovery can't like hold hands and happen. Okay. And so I kept falling back into drinking, and because I wasn't confident in who I wasn't happy with who I was, no matter, and I kept trying to match, like be like, if I do this perfectly, if I'm this person, if I try to live up to all these expectations, I won't feel bad anymore. But the problem was that I needed to heal. And so this time I kind of flipped the script. I have to get sober because of shame. So I get to be sober so I can live a better life. And that has made so much difference, like for me, in my way that I've gotten sober and been able to maintain it and be happy at it, because I'm like able to look from an outside in now and be like, I didn't deserve what happened to me as a child. I didn't deserve to feel all these feelings. And it's not my fault. But until I was able to look at it from a perspective of not sitting in my own shame, not sitting in my own guilt, not hating myself, there was no way to get past it, I guess, is my kind of outlook on it. And now I look at everything like if I hadn't made all those mistakes, if I hadn't had all those bad drinking nights, if I hadn't done everything just so, I probably wouldn't be with Matt now. And I'm living my best life now. And I have things I dreamed of. I never dreamed my life would ever look this beautiful, but it does. And I wouldn't be in this exact moment. I wouldn't be talking to you guys.
Right.
Yeah. If I hadn't done all those things. So they were all just lessons and little steps to get me where I needed to go. So I don't really have shame for them anymore.
You said something that I want to like kind of touch on here because I think it was so beautifully said, and I guess I want to reiterate it. I realized at some point you cannot ever make lasting change from a place of shame. And, like the example that I give is you're never going to like if you're on a weight loss journey, you're never going to create lasting change in your life if you're standing in front of the mirror being like, oh my God, I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, I hate myself, I hate my body, like all of those shameful things, right? You're never going to create lasting change from a place of shame. But if you can flip that and love yourself and make that change from a place of love. I love who I am. I deserve something good. I deserve to feel good. I deserve to be healthy. Then that change can actually last. And the same goes for sobriety. I know I would stand in front of the mirror, those mornings after and be like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm such a failure. I can't get my shit together. I'm such a horrible mom. My family deserves better. All that stuff would go through my head. And I would just sit there and cry and stare at myself in the mirror. And that's not where change comes from. That's not where lasting recovery comes from. It comes from a place of love. I love myself enough to do better and I deserve better. And that's where the lasting change comes from. And I think that's what you were talking about there, is that there's a big difference there.
And also it is like scientifically proven. I read the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Great book. And it scientifically proves, like, if you don't believe something, if your mind and your body are not the same, like, if your body is like taking control and your mind is not, then you're going to lose. You're going to lose that battle. And so they actually like you can think about using a muscle, and your muscle, actually the mass of your muscle will change without you doing anything, which is crazy, right? But yeah, Einstein proved all these theories right before he passed away, and now they're actually using these and putting that like into action. And so it does prove like your thoughts are so powerful. So wherever your mind goes, everything else in your life, it will follow. So I never matter, because we are literally pretty much just balls of energy walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I do believe that. I do believe it is mind over matter. I believe, you manifest your own destiny. When you speak of good things happen. For me, there was a time when shame, guilt, and regret definitely ruled my life. Every decision I took, I felt weighed down by my past mistakes. And I would say the shame was probably the worst. It was that constant feeling that like I was never good enough. Kind of like what you were saying, that I was flawed to my core. And I'd see the disappointment, like not only in my family's eyes, but like the distrust from my old friends. And like, it felt like I could never escape it. And I remember one moment of real shame that I didn't realize in the moment. And it was when I got sober that it really clicked in my head. Like, the pain that I caused in people's life is, I think it was in 2015, I ended up going into the intensive care unit, and I was in a coma for 2 days because of my drinking and my diabetes, and everything just got out of control. And I remember coming out of the coma, and I remember looking up, and I was in a fog, and I remember seeing my mom standing there, bawling her eyes out. Now, a little backstory: when I was 3 years old, my little sister passed away from SIDS, and that affected my mom tremendously. Growing up, I remember my mom, it really broke her, and at the time of my drinking and being in this coma and coming out and seeing the pain in my mom's eyes, I felt like a complete screw up, and my mom didn't deserve that. And it's once I got sober and really got to speak with my mom face to face in a sober setting in a clear mind, I realized, man, how selfish of me, how absolute selfish of me to put my mom through that feeling again, not knowing that my second baby I'm going to have to bury in the ground, and I had to live with that until I could finally sit down with my mom and almost make amends, you know what I'm saying? And talk to her and be like, I truly am sorry from the bottom of my heart for putting you through that. And when I could make peace with my mom in that sense, that feeling of being a screw up kind of faded away, because my mom understood where I was coming from. She used to pray constantly, and she would call me and be like, I wish there would be change. I pray every night that you will change, that you stop this self-destructive lifestyle. She would cry at night. And she didn't tell me this until I got sober, and it really dawned on me, like, damn, the pain that I caused in my mom's heart after losing one child and watching her son at 30-something years old pretty much dying in front of her, and there's nothing she can do but pray. That was a big part for me, that I felt shame, and I'm blessed that me and my mom have an amazing relationship these days, and I can be here, I can be coherent, we can go to dinner, we can have conversations, and we can enjoy each other's company, and I no longer have to live with that shame. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely a big piece for me.
Do you feel like that shame lifted once you were able to have that conversation with your mom?
Absolutely.
Is that what did that?
That's what did it. She used to tell me once I got sober and I could talk with her, she used to tell me, she would go, I never knew if I was going to get a phone call at night saying my son has passed away. She goes, I can't tell you how many times I would wake up in the middle of the night, my phone would go off and my heart would drop because I was afraid I was going to get that phone call that my son is dead. And now I have to bury my second child. And like, I'm not going to cry right now, but like, it's still to this day, like, it still saddens me that I did that to my mom. Like the one woman that brought me into this world, I grew up and my father left at a young age, I didn't know my father that well. So for my mom to raise me the way she did and then put her through hell like that, man, let me tell you, that ate at me for a long time until, like you said, I could finally sit down and say, from the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. Like, I am sorry that you had to go through that. No mother should have to worry about their second child dying,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that reminds me that it's so hard to show up to this person that you've hurt and say, tell me what your experience was. Let me hear your side of this story. We had my 16-year-old daughter on here recently, and she's the one that comes to mind where I've opened up that space and let her tell me what it was like for her when I was drinking. And that is the hardest thing. I remember like back the first time I quit drinking. So we're talking some years ago, my therapist was like, maybe you need to ask your kids, what was it like for you when I was drinking? And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I don't want to hear what that was like because the shame was so deep. And, now we're years away from that and I've done a lot of work. That's when the healing happens, because when you can just let them tell you, this is what I experienced, and you can apologize and mean it from the bottom of your heart, then the shame starts going away. It's such a hard conversation to have, but that's where the freedom from the shame is too. So yeah, I really appreciate that you shared that, Joel.
I never thought I could talk about any of it, right? Like, it was hard enough to talk about to begin with. Like the words that burn when they come out of your mouth. That's all shame based, right? Thank you, Andy Grammer, for that one. But it's all shame based. So I never thought I could talk. So anytime I ever was vulnerable, it kind of got thrown back in my face. So I was made to feel ashamed for actually trying to talk about it. So then when you're in an environment that you can't talk about things, and then you finally find the courage to talk about, I drink too much, and like it all started lifting as immediately after I was like, what? I can tell the truth. It always felt like if I was to say the truth, it was just heavy as hell.
Yeah.
And
feel you on that.
And there's am I going to be accepted for this? Am I going to get in trouble for this?
Right.
Am I still, like, the story I tell myself is like everything's going to fall apart, right? Because I held on to everything that I needed to hold on to try and keep myself safe, because I was so ashamed of basically how I was living my life, but I didn't even know how to express it in the beginning. And then as soon as I found a space where that part of me was accepted, then for me, it was like the floodgates opened right up.
Yeah,
it was literally like, wait a second, what? And then the tears and the truth just come flowing right out. And it was like, is this real? Can I actually talk about all of this stuff? Because all of the things I did while I was drunk, super ashamed of, especially when I dropped my daughter drunk at daycare. Like, I ashamed of the way I fathered my children when they were the first 5 years of one of my daughter's lives and the first 3 years of the other ones, because that was my worst drinking. And so I have a lot of shame in certain areas of my life that now, like you all spoke about, as soon as I started talking about it, it started lifting. And I realized that, for so many years, a lie was what held my truth inside. And it only allowed it to be mine, but the lie kept everyone at bay.
Yeah.
And as soon What's that?
Ask you a question.
Go for it.
Do you feel that feeling of not being able to say something came from before you're drinking? Like for me, I was brought up where I wasn't allowed to have feelings. Like I was literally told, tears get you nothing. Go wipe your face and do not cry in front of me. You're not allowed to cry. We don't cry in our house. But if you're not smiling, if you're not happy, I don't want you in my face. And so therefore, if anything felt unpleasant, I was so fearful to talk about it or to say anything ever. And so if it didn't look pretty, I would hold it deep inside. And that caused my drinking. That led to my drinking in the first place because it was the one way I could escape all that. But the habit of not being able to come out and say things didn't start from when I was drinking. It was compiled from relationships that I kept having, that I kept attracting because that was where my chaos originated from.
And my inability to stand up for myself in those situations continued to keep me quiet. So I continued, much like you, in environments where my truth wasn't something that was an acceptable thing. The lie was, so I maintained the lie because it was easier than it was to stand up for myself. So until I learned that that's what I had to do afterwards, I stayed in the same space you did because I continued to surround myself with people that helped me maintain the lie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's just unhealthy things. Go ahead, Julie.
We get this message, and I would almost bet all of us received this message at some point that all those things that we didn't want to say, we're like questioning, am I lovable, right? I can't let somebody see this piece of me because it means I won't deserve love. I won't be a lovable person. So I have to hide this flaw, and I have to hide this bad feeling, and I have to hide this secret and this mistake and whatever. And so we just hide all of these things. I think for me, it was all just like, if anybody knows any of these things, then I won't be a lovable person anymore. I won't deserve to be loved. And that makes it absolutely terrifying to talk about those things. But, like, and I say this sometimes when I'm talking to people about journaling, because that's one of my big things is if it's really hard to write the words down, to even put the pen to paper and write those words, that's shame. That's the stuff that's got to come out. You've got to let somebody hear that so that they can love you anyway, to prove to you that you are lovable and that all of your mistakes aren't going to get in the way of you deserving to be loved just for being who you are.
Right. I felt like for a long time I was a hard person to love. That I was a hard person to love. And I felt like it was because of all the mistakes, all the bad shit that I've done, all those kind of things. Nobody's going to want somebody like me. And I'm lucky and I'm blessed to say, and I'll bring it back to my mom again. My mom has always been a big supporter of me. No matter how bad I was to her, no matter the things that I said to her, she always supported me. She said, I will pray for you and I hope that God listens. And that's what she used to always tell me before she would leave my house. She would look at me in the eyes, give me a hug, and she would be disappointed in me because she could tell by my foggy look in my face that I'm half in the bag. She would go, I'm going to pray for you, and I hope that God listens to my prayers. And I could tell you right now to this day, I looked at my mom one day in the eyes and said, your prayers didn't go unheard. God heard you, and here I am, and every year that passes that I'm another year sober, I give my mom a big hug, and I tell her all the time, thank you. Thank you for always believing in me, because I talk to groups of people and they go, I have nobody. Everybody wrote me off. Nobody cared for me. They said, I don't need to deal with you. And they would cut them off. My mom, no matter how bad, whatever pickle I was in, she was always there to go, look, you'll always be my son. I'll always love you. I don't approve of the lifestyle you live and the shit that you do, but I love you and I will always be here for you. And to this day, like I tell her all the time, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to have a lady like that in my life. When I met my fiance that I've been with for 7 years now, she didn't know me when I was an active drinker, when I was that bad person. She only hears stories. And when I was finally able to open up to her and tell her, look, I need to let you know the kind of person I am, because we would go out and I wouldn't order a drink and she'd be like, Do you just not drink? Is it a health thing? And I was like, well, I'm gonna be dead honest with you because I have to be honest. I don't drink because I am a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And she listened with an intent ear, and she would focus in on what I was saying, and she would listen, and she would respond, and it opened her up to things that happened in her life that she's never told people. She was able to open up to me because I was open to her, and that's what created such a strong bond, I feel, between us, because we were two broken people that could speak of those pieces of us that nobody else would believe or care about. And we actually cared about each other. We listened to what each other had to say, and we had advice for each other. And, we understood, though she went through other stuff that I didn't, that we weren't alone in these kind of battles and what we faced within ourselves, and I'm blessed to have these people in my life, like my mom, my fiance, Megan. I'm blessed because now I do feel loved. I can be open, and if I can be open with them, I can be open with anybody. I can be open with you, and I'm no longer ashamed. They talk about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I hear a lot of people say, I'm not anonymous, man, and I'll never be anonymous, and I will recover out loud because I am here to speak the truth. I'm here to let people know what this life really is like. That way, the person who is still sick and suffering out there, they don't have to suffer in silence. I am your voice. We all are the voices. The four of us that are on this call right now, we are the voices. We are the change. I say it all the time. Hashtag, we are the faces of change right here. Recovery is possible. And that's why I speak my story. Whether I'm ashamed, whether I was ashamed, whether I wasn't proud of what I did, I speak the story because I've told some of the darkest stories, and I've had people come up to me and go, man, I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
And that tells me I'm on the right path. That tells me what I'm doing is absolutely correct.
And that's the thing, right? We're never the only one.
No, I was talking about that the other day with somebody. I was like, even if you're a person, say that, like, I have a girlfriend and she actually just decided to be sober. So good for her. But she didn't hardly ever drink in general. And every once in a while she would drink too much, and she would have so much shame from that. And she'd she'd be a once in every 3-month drinker. But drinking isn't drug. It causes everybody to act differently, not just the people that have active addiction. Anybody who drinks alcohol and drinks more than their 1 or 2 drinks is probably going to have a bad, shameful experience with it. So I started thinking, I am not the only person that's ever drank too much and acted wild or did these things, because when you just put drugs in the grocery store to go pick up whenever you'd like, there's going to be situations where people act loony when they drink it, and they're all going to have these shameful situations. And not that anybody needs to have these situations, but you are alone. You aren't the first person. You're not going to be the last, unfortunately. So you got to kind of take it for what it is and move on and keep your head up and feel good about yourself, because you're damn cool that you decided, I'm going to switch my life around. That's fucking rad. They have that much discipline. All of us should be yeah, pat myself on the back. We're fucking cool. We did the damn thing. I'm going to go tell everyone about it because it's the best way to live.
Yeah.
If they labeled the aisles of wine and beer and liquor, guilt, shame, and regret.
Throw up.
Wait, that's wrong.
Big rough night. Wait, what happened?
Skinny dipping in your neighbor's pool.
My neighbor told me I did that.
Right? But you know what I mean? So we talked a crap ton about shame. How about regret? Because it's the regret aisle, right? I love the grocery store analogy. That's why I hopped on it, because Julie, you have a look about you.
I do. I was just thinking this earlier. So since you're going to shift it into regret, I'm going to throw this out there. I feel like once you handle the shame, once you shine a light on the shame and you talk about it and you move through it, I think that for a lot of those situations, it becomes regret. And regret is regret is a healthy emotion. Guilt and regret are not things that we can avoid. We're all going to feel them, but those are the things that fuel the change. right? If you're sitting in shame, you're just hiding in it and you're stewing in it and you're feeling bad about yourself and you're just shitting on yourself. But once you move through the shame and it becomes regret, that's your fuel to change your behavior, to do something different so that doesn't happen again. I've
Did you
really
take the words I have written down here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just
No,
teasing.
I've really come to appreciate
it's true. You're absolutely
regret
right.
and
I'm just
guilt.
teasing you.
I know. I've come to really appreciate those. They're both horribly uncomfortable emotions. And they both mean that you're going to change your behavior and you're going to do something differently next time. And that makes us better people. So while I obviously hate feeling regret and I have a lot of things that I do regret, I can appreciate those emotions for being necessary and important in our lives.
I don't really feel regret as much after I got over the shame. I'm a little bit opposite. Like I don't really want to regret it. Like I had fun on a lot of it. I wasn't really like a drinker that I was more self-inflicted drinker though. Like I would do stuff to myself, but I've always been very like cautious of what I do to other people, if that makes sense. Even when I was drinking, so I don't have a lot. I do regret treating myself badly, but on the other hand, I'm like, a lot of these times they were like my most shining star times, but I don't want to regret every single time I drink. I don't want to live with that. Like, I did have fun. My friends and I did some crazy things, and I had cool experiences. I do regret not remembering a little bit more, but I hate like that feeling of like sitting with all the stuff. Like, there's nothing we can do with any of that stuff. It's already happened, and I think like saying yes, I did that. I don't want to do it anymore. That's a very good way to look at it, to thing to do. But to sit there and be like, God, 10 years ago, I did this. I really regret it. Like, what are you going to do about it? You know, the only thing we can do it, I'd rather put that energy in doing something really cool tomorrow.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Really cool the next day. You know,
Yeah.
so much wasted energy regretting and regretting and regretting. You can only regret so long.
I think there's a difference between not regretting and then stewing in your regret.
Yeah.
Stewing in the regret isn't using it for fuel. Stewing in your regret is putting you back in shame.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. Stewing in it is the reverse of it. But using the regret, like I regret the 10 years that I wasted really not doing anything with my life. Like there's a whole big blank decade, right?
Yeah.
In my memory bank, I can go through pictures and I don't remember a lot of what's in those pictures. They're there. I was there. I existed in flesh. In mind,
Right.
Not so much. I regret that time. A lot of that, though, I'm done the stewing part. It's part of what keeps me moving forward because I don't want to lose any more time. Time's become a really valuable currency for me.
Yes.
And
yes.
So regret for me is like, I don't even like the saying no regrets. I like regrets. Regrets are great. Regrets help me move forward. The regrets help me not do the same stupid thing that I did before. So give them to me so I can learn the lesson and so I can figure it out.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm similar to Brittany in a way, you know, and you, Steve, you know, my 20s for me, you know, most people in their 20s, that's when they build, you know, that's when they learn to become who they are supposed to become. For me, it was just one big drunken mess, you know, one big black hole. But similar to what Brittany's talking about is, do I regret the stuff that I've done? And I really can't say I do regret it because without any of that craziness in my life and that chaos, I wouldn't be the individual that I am today. You know, I wouldn't have the experience that I have today. I wouldn't have the wisdom I have today. I wouldn't have the street smarts that I have today. You know, I wouldn't be this individual that I am today. You know, I wouldn't be able to motivate people. I wouldn't be able to inspire because why? I never went through anything hard in my life and everything was easy. What do I have to show anybody? Like, I'm just Joel Anthony here in New England. But like living these dark moments and everything, I can bring something to the table that you can't go to school and get an education for. Like, none of us can, no college can teach us any of the stuff that we're talking about today. There is no high school that will teach us this. There is no college degree that we can get. This is legit school of the hard knocks. Right. Without all that crazy chaos, we wouldn't be here today having this conversation, the four of us. You know what I'm saying? So do I regret? Yeah, I wish I would have built in my 20s, but you know what? I'm in my 30s and I'm almost 40 years old. You're never too late. It's never too old. You could start something. I was at a meeting the other day. The lady is 86 years old, and she finally got her 1 month chip because she was tired of living that life. And at 80-something years old, most people, because my fiance, she works for the VA. She hears about people all the time that are like in rough shape and they're just not going to give up. They're not going to give up their bottle. They're not going to give up their drugs because this is what they know. And they're like, I'm 87. I'm going to die soon anyways. This lady at the meeting could have felt that way. But instead she goes, you know what? I'm going to take life by the throat and I'm going to do something with it. And she says the past month being sober is one of the best months she's ever had in decades. And I talked to her for a little bit after, and I told her, I'm like, you know what? You're just beginning. You're just beginning. I don't know how much time you have left. And she said that to me. She goes, I don't know how much time I have left, but she goes, I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. And I'm going to stay sober for it. And I gave her a big hug before I left that meeting. And I said, you go, girl. Go get it. Go get it because you deserve it. We all deserve it.
I love that. I say that all this time. Everybody deserves to feel really, really good.
Absolutely.
Everyone deserves that. And it makes me sad to see when I see people really struggling. That's my hardest thing, for them. And you deserve to wake up feeling rested. You deserve to feel hydrated. You deserve to feel loved. You deserve to like yourself. You deserve all of these things. And once people understand that part, I think sobriety becomes easy. It might not be for everyone, but that's not for me. I don't ever think, oh, I really want to have a dream. Even when things get hard, I don't feel like that. And I deserve to feel this good. I now and wake up in the morning. And I've also now have people in my life that truly love me. So I don't feel like even if there's something bad going on, that I'm going to get shamed for it or I'm going to feel ugly inside because they're going to make, I don't feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You could talk about it. You could finally talk about it. It's not numbing that feeling anymore. You can speak to your significant other. You can speak to maybe that close friend that understands you. We can speak now. We're not sitting here tipping the bottle back going, well, this is how we're going to talk about it today. And a couple swigs off the bottle. We can actually deal with these things and it's a good thing. And I do agree with you. It costs nothing to be a decent human. Me and my fiance, we took a walk the other day with my 2-year-old son. We went down Dunkin' Donuts, go grab a coffee. Sitting outside was this kid. He has a sign laying next to him, says, homeless and hungry, and he kind of had his head down. He didn't look up. He wasn't begging for change. He was, he was down on his luck. And I tapped him on the shoulder. And I looked at him and I said, come on inside, my man. Come on inside. And he was hesitant at first, because you could clearly tell that people don't treat him this way. And I said, come on in, my man. And when he got up, we started to conversate. He told me his name, told me a little bit of his story, and I felt bad for him, I really did feel bad for him. And I told him, you get whatever you want. And all he really asked for was a donut. And I said, no, my guy, let me get you something to eat,
Get you a meal.
I grabbed them 2 donuts, a coffee, a Pepsi, a water, and a breakfast sandwich. And as we were talking, I told him, I'm like, look, man, I understand your situation. I understand people probably see you and look down upon you. And, people don't realize, you see somebody homeless and you're like, oh, you're a bum, go get a job. But, talking with him and having a real good understanding is you can look at somebody like that and say, go get a job. But if you have no ID, you have no address where you live, you have nothing to prove who you are. You have no phone for these people to get a contact with you. How do you get a job? How do you get a job when you have no proof of who you are? And as I turned to him and told him, when I told him, I understand the situation that you're in, man. God woke you up this morning, right? He goes, yup. I go, you still got a pulse? You still got a chance. You're here for a purpose, my guy. And as I talked to him, he literally his eyes just welled up with tears and he started to cry. And as he started to cry, the only thing I could do was embrace him in a hug, and people probably looked at me funny because I have my 2-year-old son here and I'm hugging this stranger that, yeah, he has his ratty hair. His clothes are beat up. He probably stinks a little bit because he hasn't showered. But the thing is, I want my kid to know that this is somebody's father. This is somebody's son. This is somebody's brother. He is just like us. He's not a bad person. He just made bad choices. None of us are bad people. We've just made bad choices.
Everybody makes bad choices. Some just make more bad choices than others. But there's no person on earth that doesn't make any bad choices.
Ain't nobody perfect.
What you've
Nobody's
done there,
perfect.
Joel, is you've helped him. You've given him a hand up that day, but you listened to him and you saw him and you let him know he's not alone and you empathized and all of those things. That's how we overcome shame, right? That's what every single one of us needed, was for someone to see us and understand where we were and tell us that we're not a bad person and that we still deserve good things and that we still deserve to be loved. And when somebody hands us that, in whatever form or whatever setting that is, that's when the shame starts lifting. So you gave him much more than a meal that day. You also gave him a place to put some shame and hopefully shine a light on some of that shame. I think that's so, so special.
How many times have any of you in your life screamed, yelled, punched maybe, got violent or whatever, because all you wanted to do was feel seen and heard?
Yep.
And then shortly probably after that, drank some more.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
When you were talking to Julie, you brought that right up. And Britt, I have one more question. You brought something up earlier on, and it made me think about the masks that we wear. And when we do wear those masks, are we wearing those masks because we're ashamed?
Yes. 100%.
Absolutely.
Ashamed of showing who we are.
I was just ashamed to not be perfect. I just thought if I didn't if I didn't check all the boxes, then I wasn't worth being here.
Yeah.
I had no place on this earth. I shouldn't be here. And it didn't matter how much I performed because there was something missing. I didn't feel loved. And in all honesty, until my life started failing completely. I got laid off. I had a friend pass away. My relationship with my family just crumbled due to them being at it. And I literally thought Matt was gonna leave me. And it was the first time in my whole entire life he looked at me and he said, "Why would I do that?" Sorry, this makes me emotional. And I was like, "Because I'm failing." And he's like, "Well, I don't love you because you do stuff." And he stayed. Sorry, this makes me so
It's completely foreign concept, right? Completely foreign concept, right? No one stays. So why would you? I get it so much.
And he did. And I started loving myself after that day because he stayed. And he loved me unconditionally, no matter what. And he still does. And I've never had that.
It feels amazing and it feels scary. And I can relate to you so much there, Britt.
I think we all can.
Because you come out of that and I know from my own personal experience that finally being seen and finally oh my God, somebody actually loves me for who I am.
Does it yell at you? Does it make you feel bad all the time?
Right.
Unconditional love was something that I don't think I definitely did not experience in my childhood, which I feel really bad saying because God, my parents are such good people, but it was still performance based, right? As long as I was performing in the way they wanted, and that's when I felt loved. They may have loved me unconditionally, but I didn't feel loved unless I was performing and I was checking all the boxes, wearing all the masks, being the perfect little girl. And, you move into relationships and that's still the feeling that I had. I had to be perfect. in order to be loved. And if I wasn't perfect, or even if I made a mistake or had some shortcoming, then I felt like I wasn't worthy of love. And if you've never experienced, like Joel, you were talking about your mom just loving you unconditionally through everything. And, I don't like the choices you're making, and I don't like what you're doing with your life, and I love you anyway. So many of us never heard those words.
I know.
And your life changes when you hear those words. It's an incredible thing.
I'm blessed. I am, God's honest, I am blessed to have a woman like that in my life. And like my fiance now, kind of like Brittany was saying with her boyfriend and everything, that, I have an ex-wife, and I met my ex-wife when I was in middle school, and we were together for almost 19 years, but we had a relationship that was different. We didn't hold hands. We didn't show affection in public. We barely even kissed. People really didn't know we were even together because we were just different. I didn't cry. I didn't show emotion. She was there through all of the craziness and the chaos. And at times she definitely fueled it, and we fueled each other's chaos. But like, I was never that person. I didn't shed a tear. I didn't cry. And over these past 7 years being with my fiance, and she's the complete opposite. She's the one that she is my yin to my yang. She is that. She showed me that, it's okay to cry. It's okay to show these emotions, and for me, showing my emotions is still kind of new to me, I joke with her all the time. I'm like, girl, you have turned me into a potato, a bully potato. I'm soft now. I'm soft.
Dude, you're soft. You're the fact that you can freaking show that shit.
Right.
That's I know the same with fucking potato. I get it, dude. I get it, man.
Life is the water, and it either it does one of two things.
Oh, here it comes. Yep.
Life is water, right? It either turns you into the hard-boiled egg, or you become the softened potato. I was that hard-boiled
potato,
egg.
dude. Take the softened potato.
And now I'm that softened mashed potato, and it's okay. And she tells me all the time, she goes, it's okay to cry. Doesn't it feel good to cry? And maybe having kids too changed me, because me and my ex-wife, we didn't have kids. We were never going to have kids. And now I have a 7-year-old daughter, or soon to be 7-year-old daughter, and I have a 2-year-old son. And I cry at things that I normally would never get emotional over before, but like I do. And little short story, I was talking about, I'm making this move in about a week, and my sister is buried literally 15 minutes away from where I live now, and I've always been able to see her. I visit her on her birthday, I go and talk to her, and what bothers me the most, not anymore, because like I was able to talk about it, is I feel like I'm leaving her behind, her where she's buried. I feel like I'm leaving, and I'm never going to see this stone again. And where I live now, I go for walks all the time with my son, and we go through this one graveyard, and I see all these stones that have been forgotten. Nobody visits them anymore. They're overgrown, and it really bothered me to the fact that I don't want my sister's stone to become that, and I went and visited her last week, and I sat there and spoke to her, and like I started to cry, and that's new to me. That's all new to me, because I would have never stopped before. I would have just said, yeah, whatever, bloop, 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 took a couple swigs and life will move on. But like now I sit with these emotions and I cry and I feel them, and I'm not ashamed to cry. I feel like with my ex-wife, if I was to cry, I was weak, because her dad was that kind of person. He was, we don't cry around here, we don't cry. Crying's for the weak. And I grew into that, and now I'm trying to rewire myself. And you know what? I don't care what anybody says. Real men can cry.
Oh, yeah.
Real men cry. Real men will show their emotions. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, when I've had a good cry, damn, does it feel good.
It feels freaking good, dude. It feels freaking amazing.
I'll be honest.
I'll give you that.
Emotions are there to have. Like, we wouldn't be able to have these emotions. Like, we genetically have all of these emotions. And I think we forget that, because society, like, men are tough, or you don't cry, or women are always happy and smiley. And we have all these things, but we actually have these emotions to regulate us, to teach us when a heart is there, to show us, to give us boundaries. They're there to protect us and to make us feel okay. Like, we're supposed to cry to release, we're supposed to state where we don't feel comfortable. We're not supposed to hold that in because that's supposed to give us a boundary with other people so we don't get to these points where we want to drink. And by society telling us all these things are incorrect to do, we don't allow nature to do what it's supposed to do. And that, like, when I came to that conclusion, I was like, yeah, I'm allowed to feel anger or scared, or I'm allowed to feel uncomfortable and want space from certain things. I'm allowed to feel all those things because they're here to protect me. So if you listen to them, your life gets better.
Emotions color life.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And Julie and I have a friend, a dear friend of ours. Her name is Corinne. I'm going to give her credit for this. She says emotions are messengers. And they truly are. They tell us what's going on in our surroundings and help point us in a direction that helps to keep us safe. Right? I'm going to wrap this up now. A big part of what we talked about was not feeling loved or enough. And I think that was what led us to feeling shame to begin with, and a message that began carrying through our lives. And as we did things and drank and everything else, we carried more and more of that shame. We talked about regret and how we all have our own different perspectives on that. And I think the main thing here is we talked about some of the hurt and the pain, but we've also talked about the exact opposite of that. And one of the things that I heard really early on was that the opposite is healing. We talked about the unconditional love and how when you actually start showing yourself to the right people or the people that are just waiting for you to show up, how incredible that really does feel. And so shame is something you shed light on. Regret is something we all used for fuel. And we didn't touch on guilt in this episode because we had such a great conversation about the other two. But it's basically something we apologize for. So I want to say thank you, Joel, and thank you, Britt, for coming on here and sharing your stories and sharing your perspective and for your time. Thank you guys so much. It was great to have you on. Thanks also to our listeners. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow us so you don't miss new episodes.